If you're someone who wants to do everything they can to live longer and want to increase your strength as you age, then knowing how to properly carry heavy objects is going to be something you want to know. Not only is carrying heavy things functional for doing daily activities, but it is also vital for maintaining a strong grip, having good balance, and developing great core stability. We also know that there's reliable research out there showing how weak grip strength is linked to higher all-cause mortality rates, risk of falls, and morbidity. Now let's get into how to properly carry objects and which variations you can begin to use, starting from the easiest to the most challenging. Starting off with the easiest variation, which is the farmer carry. This is when you will carry objects typically around the same size in both hands. You can use dumbbells, kettlebells, or any weighted object for this. Here, you want to focus on standing tall while walking forward without allowing the weight to make your shoulders round or lean to one side more than the other. Focus on taking equal steps on each side and keeping the weights tight at your side, eliminating any excessive arm motion. One big mistake I see often here is when people don't consciously make the effort to minimize movement of their pelvis and lower spine. They will typically allow their pelvis to shift side to side or even rotate forward and back, causing unnecessary stress in the lower back. Instead, focus on keeping your abdominal muscles braced and continue to breathe with control while still walking. Next, we will move on to suitcase carries. Now with this variation, the weight is now only distributed in one hand, which will want to pull you over to one side. Here, you will use your core and hip stabilizers to keep your trunk from leaning over too far. You should imagine as if you are still carrying equal weight on both hands. Focus on the same cues with standing tall, taking equal steps on both sides, and not allowing the weight to sway too far away from your body. Moving on to the front rack carry. This can be performed with weights in both hands or with one hand at the front rack position. Now the goal is to keep the weight secured and tight to your body. This is best done with you making a fist with your thumb facing towards you, keeping a neutral wrist. Given that the weight has now moved from your side to your chest height, this variation will now start to challenge your core even more. Focus on staying stacked and aligned with your shoulders over your pelvis, eliminating any compensations by arching of the spine. Now we are moving on to some more advanced carries, which is the overhead carry. This can be performed also with weights in both hands or with one hand overhead. If you're just starting off, I'd highly recommend starting off with single arm support, since this variation will put an increased demand on the core and now start to challenge your overhead shoulder and wrist mobility. While holding the weight overhead, still focus on a neutral wrist while holding the weight firm. Also, focus on keeping the arm locked out as straight as possible overhead, with your arm as close to your ear as possible. If you find that it is too difficult for you to keep your elbow straight or your arm close to your ear, then you will most likely benefit from reducing the load or spending some intentional time working on your overhead mobility. Now check out this video up here on one of the stretches I use to help with this. The last variation, which is the most challenging for people, is the bottom-ups variation. This is done holding a kettlebell upside down with a neutral wrist and a firm grip. The round bell portion of the kettlebell will be facing up to the sky. You can perform this while holding weight in both hands, but one hand support will be very challenging enough to begin with. You can perform this with your elbow up at shoulder height and also with your arm fully overhead to make it more difficult. This will increase the challenge on the exercise tremendously by requiring your wrist, shoulder, and core stabilizers to prevent the bell from moving or falling over. I'd recommend for safety precautions starting off with this using static holds to begin with, and then as you develop more control, then progressing to walking. Now it's important to understand that even though you may not be able to do any of the overhead carries like shown in this video, you will still benefit greatly from working on suitcase and farmer carries. The most important factor here is that you are working on them 1 to 2 times per week to maintain strength in this muscle group. Now when we're talking how to progress these exercises, you can either do that by increasing the amount of distances that you're walking or simply increasing the load and the weight of the exercise. Now, if you want to learn other ways on how to build optimal grip strength and increase your general fitness, check out the video I made up here. Now, I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please consider giving this video a like, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a video, and leave a comment below on which variation is your favorite. I'll see you in the next one.